Hello, and welcome to our overview of the BC home flipping tax. So to start, what is the BC home flipping tax? Well, it's a tax that applies to the profit earned from selling a property in British Columbia, including pre-sale contracts, if the property was owned for less than 730 days. We should note that the BC home flipping tax is separate and distinct from the federal property flipping rules, and it is not harmonized or administered with the federal or BC income tax. It's a separate tax with a separate return, and it is not included with the usual annual income tax filings. BC home flipping tax returns are due 90 days after the sale of the property. Property purchased before the tax's effective date of January 1st, 2025 may be subject to the tax if sold on or after January 1st, 2025 and owned for less than 730 days, unless an exemption applies. We'll get to exemptions a little bit later in the video. Now, by taxable property, we mean that the tax will apply to profit you earn from the sale of properties of the housing unit, properties zoned for residential use, or the right to acquire the above properties, such as the assignment of a purchase contract for a pre-built condo building. So now let's talk about how this tax applies. So if a person, which can include an individual, corporation, partnership, or trust, sells a taxable property on or after January 1st, 2025, then the profit earned from the sale would be subject to the flipping tax if the property was purchased less than 730 days before the sale. The seller of the property may be a BC resident or a resident anywhere else in the world. Now let's illustrate this with a basic example. If you purchased a taxable property on May 1st, 2023, and then sold the property on January 31st, 2025, any profit you earn from the sale of the property would be taxable, as this is less than 730 days. However, if you don't sell the property until June 1st, 2025, then any profit you earn from the sale would not be subject to the tax, as this is a longer period than 730 days. So as I mentioned earlier, there are exemptions to the BC home flipping tax. You may not need to pay the tax if you are eligible for an exemption. Now, depending on your exemption, you're either exempt only after you file a return, or you may be exempt without having to file a return at all. Exemptions exist for life circumstances, for builders, developers, and for building or renovating activity, and for sales between related persons. So please see our website for more specific information and examples of specific exemptions. Now, if the tax applies to the sale of your property, you'll need to file your BC home flipping tax return and pay any tax owing no later than 90 days after the date the property is sold. And note, you're still required to file a return even if your profit from the sale is zero, or if you're eligible for an exemption that requires you to file a return. You don't need to consider the BC home flipping tax and do not have to file a return if one of the following applies. You sold your property after owning it for more than 729 days, or you qualify for an exemption that applies without needing to file a return, or you're a developer and you're initially entering into an agreement which establishes a right to acquire a property. So for example, when a developer enters into a pre-sale agreement with an initial purchaser. If you require more information on the BC home flipping tax, please visit our webpage as shown on the screen. And if you still have questions or require further assistance, you can either email us or call one of the phone numbers also shown on the screen as well. Thank you very much.